Welcome to the Backlash. I am your host, Rebecca Hargraves, joined as always by Mr. Dave Riley. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I literally just walked in from skiing.
Skiing?
Walked in. I'm very bad.
Oh, yeah? What mountain do you go to?
Schweitzer.
Schweitzer.
Yeah.
How is that? I've never been.
Beautiful. It's so beautiful up there. It's like a legitimate resort.
You know, they just got bought out by like some...
Vail?
No, Icon.
Oh.
Right? Or something, Altera Mountain Group? Oh. Altera Mountain Group. And of course, they're owned by like some Jewish hedge fund out of Aspen.
Why must you ruin
So good job.
my
You
day.
gave your money to the Jews all weekend.
Thank you. They got a lot.
How much were they charging for hot chocolate?
Oh, I don't know, $6 probably.
That actually doesn't sound so bad.
You can find us on X at Real Backlash, our website, thebacklash.net. Support us on subscribestar.com/thebacklash, patreon.com/thebacklash. Send your super chats that will be read live to my YouTube channel where you may be watching this, or to thebacklash.net/super chat. Follow us on YouTube. Please follow us on YouTube. The subscribers are paltry. At Real Backlash, Rumble at Backlash Podcast, Instagram, real.backlash, TikTok at Backlash Pod. Find all of our links, thebacklash.net/subscribe. Thank you so much for joining us today. A big thanks.
Hold on. I was going to say, we have an issue here. We did get banned
from Spotify
by Spotify since the last time that we were hanging out with you. So don't
I
know
blame
why.
Father Mawdsley.
No, absolutely not. No, it says that we were promoting dangerous content. And it's like, what do we tell people to do?
Ridiculous.
We tell people to be pro-social, be moral, live a good life, have kids.
I gave an entire rant
Unbelievable.
last Wednesday about the benefits of authoritarianism. So
maybe that had something to do with it. Maybe.
Don't know. A big thanks to our sponsors, Above Time Coffee Roasters. That is small batch, delicious coffee. We appreciate it. Idaho Tallow, that is skincare without endocrine disruptors, and Antelope Hill, publishers of white positive literature. Without further ado, Dave, would you like to introduce our guest?
Yes, but first, I've got to remind everybody that we're doing a Christmas giveaway. We are giving away a copy of Kevin McDonald's The Culture of Critique from Antelope Hill Publishing, a 12-ounce bag of, what is this? The Hagalaz medium roast coffee from Above Time Coffee Roasters. It smells so good. Smell that. And we're giving away
that's the business.
a bar of soap. The Three Kings Gifts from North Idaho Tallow Company. So please sign up on the link. It's on our Twitter. It's on our website, thebacklash.net/giveaway. And we will be drawing the winner for that on Wednesday.
Nice. Okay.
So you still got time. Get your friends to sign up. Maximize your opportunity to win.
Why does the hand rubbing?
If you get your friends to sign up, then that you could get them to promise
of
you
all
that
the
they would give
guests
you
to do this in front of?
True. And today's guest is a very special one. We've got joining us Father James Mawdsley. He's a Catholic priest. He is a traditional Catholic priest, says the Latin Mass. He was suspended in 2022 around the time of COVID, and he has since dedicated his time to delving into the issues of the pre-1955 liturgy, the prayers for the Jews, and also Catholic social teaching and the restoration of the priesthood. So
this is going to be
so
some
much for joining us, Father Mawdsley.
dangerous content.
I guess, yeah. I don't know how
so
to
much
Sorry
for
about
joining
your
us today.
ban on Spotify.
Well, yeah, and that's
I
right.
hope this doesn't harm your other platforms.
Oh, no. Father Mawdsley, actually, you got banned from Twitter recently, maybe four months ago at this point. It was after your appearance on the show the first time. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I've had a lot of content limited, and after getting banned on YouTube, then banned on X, it's not really free speech. It's all going through a Jewish filter. And if the Jews don't like what you say, they'll call it not just anti-Semite, but dangerous. And then a whole bunch of soy boy guys will jump in behind them and say the same. Even Catholics say the same. And that's it. But it's not at all a downside to being kicked off. It's good for your mental hygiene not to be on X. So
yeah, and you've been very productive since you got kicked off. We're going to get into this, I think, a little bit later in the interview, but Father just released a brand new book called The Metaphysics of Love, Reality as the Way to Life. So I'm definitely looking forward to getting into that with you. And you're still, by the way, up on Rumble. It's called Scripture and Tradition on Rumble, and I think you started a spot or a pot of I need more
Potify.
I need more Above Time coffee flowing through my veins. A Substack where you've been sharing some thoughts and whatnot over there. That is fatherjmawdsley.substack.com, and of course we've got all of the links in the show notes below to his book, to his Substack, and his Rumble. So that's good.
thank you.
Yeah. First up, let me see if I can get my notes up here. I saw some interesting things going on with some of these nativity scenes. We've been told that there's this war on Christmas. We've been fighting this war on Christmas for 10, 20 years now. They banned the creche from public space, and there's been all of this nonsense from liberals coming out. And it's really interesting this year. There have been several of these kind of scandalous things happening at Catholic churches in America. One of them was this church up in Massachusetts that had a nativity scene posted. And instead of having the baby Jesus in the manger, they had a sign that said ICE was here.
Good Lord.
There was another one. I forget where this one was, but they had the baby Jesus' hands zip-tied, implying that, ICE had come and taken Mary and Joseph and Jesus away. And of course, this kind of feeds into this liberal talking point that Jesus, Mary, and Joseph were refugees, that their story of Christmas, where they're, obeying the law and going to get counted by Pontius Pilate, who was doing a census at the time, right? That this is somehow comparable to the refugee crisis that we're dealing with today. So I was curious for your thoughts on these things, and then maybe to get into actual Catholic social teaching on immigration, on borders. Do we have the right to defend our nations? Do we have the right to clamp down on immigration? Things like that.
Well, they're weaponizing the Christmas story for their political ideology. And in fact, the infant Jesus does the opposite. He brings peace. Maybe later we'll talk about Christmas truces breaking out in World War I and World War II, where Germans, English, French, and then in World War II with Americans, peace breaks out because of the infant Jesus. He has that power, 2,000 years after he was born. And for them Jesus, Mary, and Joseph were in their own country when they went to Bethlehem. They weren't refugees. And then after Herod is trying to kill Jesus, yes, they flee to Egypt, but that's to save lives. It's not just searching for economic opportunity. And then as soon at the first opportunity, Joseph brings the Holy Family back to their country, back to Nazareth. So what they're trying to push with this agenda is nothing to do with looking after people who are fleeing for their lives. It's not even to do with helping people out who have economic need. It's to do with destroying borders, destroying national identity, because that's the only way the globalists, the Jews, can hope to dominate the entire world. And they've sold this on the back of the Holocaust lie that a nation is a dangerous thing. Having national identity or pride in your nation is a dangerous thing. That's why if we get to those stories of the Christmas truces, it's absolute rubbish. People of different nations can treat each other like brothers and put down their weapons. There's a difference between a Christian idea of military heroism and the Jewish idea. The Christian idea, you can say, never surrender, fight to the last man. If you're fighting against other Christians, but if you're fighting against Muslims or communists, you might say fight to the last man. And that's heroic. The Jewish idea of total war is kill the babies. It's an aggressive thing without limit. Whereas the Christian total war would have a limit on Christmas Day, for example. You don't fight on Christmas Day. So to use this story for immigration, it's pretty transparent, and it's shameful that it's happening in churches themselves. They could be preaching the Christian mystery, which we'll get to, I hope, soon.
Yeah. Speaking of this Christmas truce, I guess let's jump into it. There was a movie that came out in 2005 called Joyeux Noël, which is all about this. And it is really interesting kind of watching it. I try to watch it every year. You see all of these soldiers in the trenches. They're fighting each other. They hate each other. They're killing each other. And then all of a sudden on Christmas Eve, I think it was one of the Germans starts, holding up a tiny little Christmas tree, kind of like that one that we have on our table. And he exits the trenches and starts singing a hymn. And it's really interesting, too, in the light of all of the changes that have occurred since Vatican II, especially the destruction of the traditional Mass, because you had these different people. You had Scots, Scots-Irish, English, German, French. They can't speak each other's languages. They don't understand each other. But all of a sudden, when it comes time to go to Mass, and it's in Latin, it's in this common language that all of them are aware of. They've grown up with it. They know what happens at the Mass. They know what's being said. And it kind of brings that bond of unity, the European unity that white people are always talking about. Where's our unity? Why can't we all fight together or whatever?
And I'm sure some cognitive dissonance about the brother wars emerges as a result.
Yeah. Have you ever seen the movie?
Mm-mm.
Oh, you got to watch it.
Okay, I'll watch it this year.
Absolutely got to watch it. But yeah, if you could talk us through that a little bit.
Well, singing, I think, Stille Nacht, when you hear that, anyone recognize it as Silent Night. Mm-hmm. It's beautiful, sung in German. And though a lot of them couldn't communicate verbally, they're sharing cigarettes, sharing drinks, end up playing soccer together, some of them. And this is what normal people, how they want to treat each other. But of course, the senior officers are going out of their minds because they're threatening court-martials, I think, if these truces extended or repeated the next year, because they want the total war, which is the illogic of trying to dominate. You have sovereignty in your own country. There's enough for you to do to run your own country without trying to dominate other countries.
Yeah, sorry, I've got the B-roll playing of the trailer of Joyeux Noel, just to kind of give a little bit of a vibe. Here, I can.
We were talking about a ceasefire. I don't think anyone would criticize us for laying down our rifles on Christmas Eve.
This is my wife.
Merry Christmas.
Frohe Weihnachten. Merry Noel.
But anyway, you get the idea. Definitely watch it. I think it's available on like Netflix, Amazon, that kind of thing. And it's incredible too that it's just like it must have driven the Freemasons and the Jews absolutely insane right? That they could not get these, because after the Christmas truce, it was just supposed to be a day, and then it wound up turning into a week, and then a month, and then a couple of months, and then they had to cycle all of the people that were there out
right.
and send them to different.
Because how could you fight after that?
They couldn't. They absolutely couldn't. Do you think that there was an element of seeing that lesson in the war and the powers that be, like, you know, Freemasonry and whatnot? Do you think that they saw that and figured, hey, we've got to change the mass. We've got to do what we can to break these people up. Do you think that was a calculus?
I don't know if that contributed to it. I think they have an instinctive hatred of truth and of Jesus Christ. So they've always wanted to undermine Christ and the church. But I think you've onto something, that they don't know the future and they don't know the truth until the church shows it. So when the church shows the power of Christ to bring peace, to bring people together, to put down weapons, then yeah, probably it increases their fury at Christmas and the unity that Latin gave the different nations of the church. Because our Lord had been in Our Lady's womb for 9 months. He's present in the world. But Christmas is about making that mystery visible when it becomes born. So the preface for the Nativity speaks of when the Word becomes flesh and is born, then God's light shines on the eyes of our mind by making so that we can know God in visible form. We're drawn to the invisible God. So, and you see, God has come to us as an infant. It's totally non-threatening. Like, God is putting himself, in a sense, in our hands. He's not defenseless, he's almighty, but he's appearing defenseless to show he's no threat to us. And he allows Our Lady and St. Joseph to look after him, to defend him from the wild Herod. And because God has shown us what we have in common with him, by taking on human nature, he shows all human beings, every single human being is made in his image, and what they have in common with God is reason and a will. That God is spirit, and we have a spiritual aspect. And these theological and philosophical truths are what make peace possible. And God actually did this. He actually took on flesh, actually got born. It's incredible that he's not just giving a philosophical treatise or a political theory to try to push an agenda or bring things together. It's what God actually does that is the truth that brings peace. And he will. There's more wars to go through, but the victory is his. And this Christmas, there's 3 masses on Christmas Day: midnight mass, the dawn mass of the shepherds, and then the mass of the day. There's so many mysteries we can contemplate to be grateful for. So you don't have to go to the 3 masses. Any one of them is good. And we need it now more than ever to be thinking of these things so that the crazy world doesn't drive us crazy with it.
Since we've last spoken, we got a new pope. I believe when we spoke, it was like in the spring or the summer. It was just before Pope Francis died and Pope Leo was elected. I'm curious for your thoughts talking about peace, talking about world conflict. He came out with a tweet not too long ago, actually, 11 days ago, saying that every human being and every religion is called to promote fraternity. In our time marked by growing conflict and division, we need authentic testimonies of human kindness and charity to remind us that we are all brothers and sisters. Words are not enough. Our love and deepest convictions need to be continually cultivated, and we do so through concrete actions. What are your thoughts on this? Because when I hear the word fraternity in this context, I'm thinking Freemasonry. I'm thinking this false concept that all the religions of the world can get together and we can work out our differences and we can have peace.
It's diversity coded.
Very, very diversity is our strength coded. What are your thoughts on this? Can we have peace without Jesus Christ? Can we have peace without people converting from false religions to the true religion?
No. And when Leo was elected and came out on the balcony, there was nothing in his speech that would give you hope, that reinforces that the world needs Jesus Christ and there's no other way. It's just blatantly false to say that all religions, what did he say in that tweet? Call for fraternity and that we're all brothers and sisters. They certainly do not do that.
Right.
We Christians can be peacefully disposed to anybody else without being a doormat. We defend ourselves, and we recognize that God calls everyone to himself and is willing. He died for each individual, and they only have to believe he's the Lord and accept him and that he's their king, their God, and they can reach heaven, anybody. But if they don't do that, if they choose to be at enmity with him, then they're enemies of all mankind. The Christian response is not to deny that they're enemies. It's to love our enemies, which means we don't treat them cruelly. We don't treat them with injustice. But not for a moment do we allow them to desecrate cathedrals or commit genocide or murder tens of thousands of Gazan children. And so this comes up every time, but how is it that the British government and the Germans, Italians, French, and Americans are actively supporting this genocide? We do not have control of our own countries. The Jews do, or that would be impossible because the populations of these countries want nothing to do with committing genocide, except perhaps the Christian Zionists in America, which is the end result of the idiocy of Protestantism. That they're so far from the truth that they will support this Antichrist Israel, killing children, even through Christmas. There's supposed to be a ceasefire now. It's still happening every single day, the murders. So, no, Pope Leo is, you could tell from when he came out on the balcony, although a lot of us have tried to be patient, hope for the best, hope against hope. But we're gonna have to wait for another one or two popes, I think, till we get one that realizes, unless he's full on 100% for Jesus Christ, the world is still going to be falling apart.
Yeah,
you're right. That talking about fraternity like that, it's a blatant lie. That's not from all religions. That's the Freemasons code. It doesn't work. It's a lie. They don't mean it.
One of the issues that I hear people that are critical of Christianity, of Catholicism, bring up is that loving your enemy is in direct contradiction with enforcing justice. Can you tell us a little bit more about the traditional Catholic doctrine surrounding this? Because I feel like we have a lot of righteous rage and, in my case, hate that is channeling itself probably in inappropriate ways, and we need to know what to do with it.
Right. I don't see the contradiction at all with loving an enemy. Love or charity, you can desire their salvation. That's the greatest charity. Pray for it. You don't treat them with any injustice or cruelty. But that doesn't mean you don't fight or defend yourself against them. It doesn't mean you don't criticize and oppose them. It means that you won't lie in your criticism, because you believe a man has a dignity, they deserve truth. And even at cost to yourself by proclaiming the truth, it might hurt you. So it's just, we've got a pathetic idea of love. That's, I think, why when these people hear love your enemy, if they think that means you're supposed to go and hug them and meanwhile you get stabbed in the back, well, that's not love. There's probably more to say, but I don't understand really where these people are coming from, except we have a pope, right, saying things like that mislead people about what Christianity is. And the same pope pushing tikkun olam, Kabbalistic crap. Maybe we'll get onto the Hanukkah parties as well, that have taken off. You said something else, Rebecca, about the hate. You know, the more you love the good, the more you're going to hate evil. But it's just that the full person, any other human being, is not your total enemy. Only the Antichrist is purely evil, and they're not in his being. So you can oppose them on all sorts of levels. You can hate sin in yourself, hate sin in them. You can hate their lies. You can hate their ideology. You're just not meant to hate the person with this diabolical hatred that simply wants to destroy them.
No, I understand that. I believe that Judaism is the human form of Satan. I think that it's an expression of Satan. And
it is, yeah.
Not transferring that to individuals that are committing these atrocities. I just have I've got a hard time doing that. But I do pray for the conversion of the Jews. So
I keep interrupting. No, because our leaders are letting us down so bad. That's why I think there's this disordered outlets for the hatred. We are meant to hate that evil. And if our leaders aren't dealing with it properly, if they're supporting the genocide, or the church hierarchy refuses to preach Christ, and if it preaches a worldly message instead, then it's impossible to see how these things can get resolved, and it makes frustration, and it makes for a disordered outlet. Like we can all see that Syria and Libya and Iraq and Iran and Palestine have been brutally attacked, reduced many of them to rubble. Of course, this is going to not only cause lots of refugees from these countries, but cause Muslims to have a hatred because they think this is coming from Christian countries. And then when we've got floods of refugees, or not refugees even, just mass immigration in our countries, if you're not thinking, well, we've gone to war with their countries, or we've supported the banks who are causing economic impossibilities in so many countries. So people want to get to America, or they want to get to Europe to have a chance. We need to start propping up the Jewish banks, stop dealing with Jewish banks, stop giving Jews any power in our governments, because they are the expression of the devil's will on this planet, the rejection of Christ, which we should absolutely hate and want to have nothing to do with in our lives contributing to it, for example, through debt or what we consume.
Usury.
Yeah. And the church used to be strong on this. I think, though, at the end of time, on the day of judgment, the devil would like to be able to say that the only reason the church was strong in the Middle Ages was because the church forced people to be Catholic. And then let's say the church was strong in the 1900s, she'll say because Catholics had no alternative, they didn't know what else to do, it was just a habit. But because the church will survive this period of all these lies and our weak leadership and our Judaized governments, it's proof that no, we're Catholic for God's sake, God alone. It's enough to love God to be Catholic. And it doesn't bring you any advantage temporally or in society. On the contrary, it'll bring you a lot of trouble. And yet we remain Catholic. And so at the end of time, the devil will have nothing left to accuse God and accuse human beings. There's many of them will go to hell for rejecting Christ, but there's no explanation for the survival of the church through all history except the love of God, that he draws us to us by his birth in Bethlehem and then his death on the cross and everything in between, showing his pure love. And Jesus spoke, there's no one has castigated the enemies of mankind, the Jews, as strongly as Jesus, speaking so clearly. If our bishops and then our governments would speak that clearly, we wouldn't have all these conflicts with destroying countries around the world, causing mass migration, and then destroying our countries as well, paving the way for the Antichrist.
Yeah.
So we've got to stick it out in the meantime, but bear the weight of the cross until the bishops get a backbone.
Yeah. And we're going to need to do some serious prayer and fasting. And I don't know if anybody's tried to bribe the bishops to be good. I don't know if that'll work.
No,
but
of course not.
Maybe, I don't know. I mean, we've got in this country, Catholic Charities, which is leeching off of the government. The U.S. government is paying these people off to bring in, all these refugees. And, that kind of brings us back. Man, it's like schizo mode today. I've got so many different threads that I want to follow up on. Let's start first by closing the thread on a true understanding of Catholic nationalism, Catholic borders, Catholic immigration policy. It's actually really interesting. Martyr Maid, Daryl Cooper, tweeted this out back in 2021. I remember there was a Breitbart article as well, right around the time I was converting, which is funny that this big Hasbro Jewish outlet wrote this article about St. Thomas Aquinas' immigration policy. But it makes some sense. So if you bear with me for a second here, I'll read this. For those of you who are unaware of St. Thomas Aquinas' treatment of immigration policy, St. Thomas Aquinas answers that man's relations with foreigners are twofold, peaceful and hostile. In directing both kinds of relation, the law contained suitable precepts. For the Jews were offered 3 opportunities of peaceful relations with foreigners. First, when foreigners passed through their lands as travelers. Secondly, when they came to dwell in their land as newcomers. And in both of these respects, the law made a kind of provision in its precepts. For it is written, thou shalt not molest a stranger. And again in Exodus, thou shalt not molest a stranger. Thirdly, when any foreigners wish to be admitted entirely to their fellowship and mode of worship. With regard to these, a certain order was observed, for they were not at once admitted to citizenship, just as it was the law with some nations that no one was deemed a citizen except after 2 or 3 generations. As the philosopher says, the reason for this was that if foreigners were allowed to meddle with the affairs of a nation as soon as they settled down in its midst, many dangers might occur, since the foreigners, not yet having the common good firmly at heart, might attempt something hurtful to the people. Hence, why it is the law prescribed in respect of certain nations that had close relations with the Jews, the Egyptians were among whom they were born and educated, and the Idumeans, I don't know how to say that, the children of Esau, Jacob's brother, that they should be admitted to the fellowship of the people after the 3rd generation, whereas others with whom their relations had been hostile, such as the Ammonites and the Moabites, were never admitted citizenship, while the Amalekites, who were yet more hostile, had no fellowship or kindred with them, and were to be held as foes in perpetuity. So basically this idea that there's a process of 3 generations. So you admit somebody into your country, but they wouldn't be allowed to vote, they wouldn't be allowed to own land, and only after they had assimilated into the culture and taken on the same form of worship would they be admitted as citizens. Am I reading this correctly, or am I out to lunch?
No, absolutely. And everything that happened in the Old Testament is there for our instruction. So you have these different gradations today, where some countries, the immigrants will take 2 or 3 generations to properly assimilate. Others are going to be more reluctant, and you'll have to do it on a case-by-case basis. And there are others who will never assimilate. And that is now actually the Jews. The Jews are foreigners everywhere and should be treated as foreigners everywhere. They have no right to Israel at all, no natural or divine right. And this, like mass immigration, and that the bishops support it, is against nature. It's a sin, a crime against nature, because the person is a reality of nature, and so is the family. And you need a family in order to be, in order to grow, in order to perfect the nature God's given you. But you also need a wider society, because there needs to be, for example, a division of labor, and some on agriculture, some on defense, some in industry or education. Not every family can do that alone. So we need a nation that have this shared identity of closer or more or less close bonds. And that works for each person to be able to perfect their nature. And so God created the nations, we're told in Genesis and Acts, setting their times and boundaries. It's part of his plan. To then try to dissolve borders, to pretend that anyone can come to any nation. Like, there's none of us think we can go to China or Japan and start telling them how to run their government. Well, unless you're British colonialists working for the Jews, causing the Opium Wars or whatever. That's a Jewish enterprise. And if we don't expect to go into other countries and tell them how to run themselves and to claim rights on their resources, why does the church defend this when it's happening the other way around against America or Europe?
Right.
So the Tucker Carlson, he said a couple of good things, but he's trying to say you can never have a collective punishment. You can never treat people a certain way because of their birth. But to exclude foreigners from government office is not a punishment. It's part of the natural law. So to say that Jews should not be able to own media or have influence in the banks, universities, or position in parliament or whatever, this is not a punishment. It's just a recognition that they are foreign, that they don't even understand the good of that nation, and they will not work for the good of that nation.
I'm even reminded a little bit of Vivek Ramaswamy. He is currently running for governor. What is it? These Franklin memes are so funny. Franklin observes Vivek Ramaswamy's annual Christmas crash out. But, we've got these people like Vivek Ramaswamy. His father's not an American citizen. He's an anchor baby.
Yes, indeed.
And he has the audacity to get up on stage, either at his campaign events or at TPUSA, and lecture the rest of us on what an American is. And it's like, you literally just got off the boat. What are you talking about? And it's interesting. I'm actually a third generation American. So sorry, Dad, you shouldn't be able to vote. I'll stand by that. No, I'm kidding. But and it's funny.
You've integrated okay.
Yeah, but it is funny, right? I've got a lot of my friends. They're 5th, 6th year founding stock, right? You go back to the Mayflower, and so for my family to have come over in the early 1900s, that is fairly recent, actually. It's kind of funny that I am third. I mean, I don't know. It's interesting, but I still, my parents would tell me the stories of growing up in Philadelphia. At my mother's side, they all spoke Italian, but it's like when the kids were around in the home, you spoke English. You learned English, you spoke English. The aunts and the uncles, maybe when they wanted to talk about a sensitive topic that didn't include the kids, they would kind of break off into German or Italian or whatever. But they made a conscious effort to assimilate to the culture, to be an American. And these people, specifically the Jews, absolutely, but also the Muslims, they're not really doing that. They're not doing that at all. Now, Father, there are a lot of people on the right, and I think they're getting kind of tricked I'll share my thoughts in a second. But we've got this guy over here in America. His name is Jake Lang. He's Jewish. He pretends to be a Christian, or maybe he is. I God knows. I don't know. But he goes around having these rallies in places like Dearborn, Michigan, where he brings bacon with him. He brings pigs with him. And then, of course, he's using the crucifix Like there's a Quran inside of a pig's mouth. And it really just seems like he's going around to these different communities specifically to cause division and to cause harm and stuff like that. What would we say about this? I mean, I look at it and I'm like, I don't think we should be picking a fight with these people. You know, like obviously they're Muslim, we're not. We don't like it. They shouldn't be here. But should we be going around trying to pick fights with these people? I don't feel like that's very charitable.
I don't know anything about this guy, but just looking at him, he doesn't bring to mind any example from any of the saints. That's not Catholic.
Right. He doesn't, thank God he doesn't claim to be Catholic. Yeah, I think there he is using the Quran to cook bacon, which is just, you know, what are we doing here?
Yeah, I don't think we should be picking a fight with Muslims. We've had plenty of fights in history, and we can kind of respect each other's military courage. But when we fight, let's fight on our terms when we decide, not fight because the Jews are setting against each other. Mm. And there's enough Muslims and Christians who realize the Jews are trying to get us to destroy each other so that they can come through the middle.
Right.
So it makes perfect sense that we cooperate, don't provoke. I'm not saying we make an alliance with Muslims. I think that's going too far. But that's not the same as saying we can cooperate, which is true, and we can desist from acts of provocation, especially as things are becoming more critical and obvious. Mm. I'm not pretending that we're going to live in peace forever either. But it's the most shameful and worst thing if we're allowing Jews to set us against each other.
Right.
What about acts of provocation towards Judaism?
Like Gregor's Brown using the fire extinguisher on the menorah?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I mean, I think, well, for sure, we've got the...
Well, he did a good thing. That's a fact. So, I mean, not mindless provocation. He's putting out the bloody menorah. Like, what is that? That was destroyed with the temple in 70 AD. And so these Hanukkah parties that are breaking out now everywhere. I don't think that was really from about 160 before Christ. The Maccabees rededicated the temple after the Greeks had profaned it for 2 or 3 years. And the Greeks were pushing homosexuality. They were trying to ban the law of God. Absolute abominations they were, with Antiochus, a figure of the Antichrist. So it's a great thing that the Maccabees did, knocking down the pagan altars in the temple, rededicating it. And that was celebrated up to the time of our Lord. In John chapter 10, it tells about this feast of lights, I think they call it. And then the Jews wanted to stone Jesus, wanted to kill him. But after the temple was destroyed, you would hardly celebrate this, because if you're celebrating the dedication of the temple, the kids are going to say, what temple? Oh, the one that was destroyed by the Romans. And what menorah? The one that disappeared in 70 AD. But now, 2,000 years later, they have this Antichrist hope of rebuilding the temple. That's why these parties are breaking out. And for a Catholic to attend them, if they think it has religious significance, then that's a grave sin. Because the dedication of the temple happened with Jesus being at Our Lady's purification, being taken to the temple to be dedicated to God, and his body is the temple. So there's no other sense or meaning to the temple and the menorah. In fact, the amazing thing about, if you read 2 Maccabees 10, verse 3 and 4, it would tell you when the Maccabees rededicated the temple, they got fire from stones, maybe from flint, a spark from flint, and they did 4 things with this one source of fire. They offered the sacrifices, the holocausts. They offered the incense. They lit the menorah, the 7 lamps, and they warmed up the loaves of proposition, the bread of presence. These 4 things are all from Jesus Christ, when he is the spark that comes from the stone tomb in the resurrection. He is the light of the world. on Christmas Day. He's born as the light of the world. And from him, we have those sacrifices, which is your Holy Mass, exterior worship, the incense, which is interior worship. It was inside the tabernacle on an altar with reminiscent themes of the one outside. Then the 7 lamps are the 7 gifts of the Holy Ghost, symbolized by the menorah. And the loaves of proposition, the Holy Eucharist. It was warm bread, bread of presence, bread of a face-to-face encounter with God. That has to be the Holy Eucharist. All these came from one spark. That's the spark that hits the world on Christmas Day. And so for a Catholic to go to these Hanukkah parties, is it? I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Yeah.
If they think it's religious, that's a grave sin. They're denying Jesus Christ. And if they're just doing it because it's a political advantage to hang out with the Jews, then that shows that they have no idea about their faith. They don't know what anything means. When you're told there's a party, do you want to come to this party? You say, what's the occasion? If the occasion is we're looking forward to rebuilding an Antichrist temple to deny Jesus Christ, you say, no, I don't want to go to your party.
Right, because, Hanukkah today would be like an implicit recognition that we are awaiting the Messiah. So for a Catholic who, J.D. Vance, are you listening? And I tweeted this out the other day. It went fairly viral, I guess, in spite of the suppression or whatever. And I said, it's a mortal sin for Catholics to participate in Jewish religious ceremonies. And I base this on the writings of St. John Chrysostom, St. Augustine, and all of this stuff comes, and I'm not sure if you're friends with him, but this all comes from American Reform,
He's awesome.
Yeah, Pope Pius XII in his encyclical Mystici Corporis talks about how the church is Israel. It has replaced the old law, he says, by the death of our Redeemer, the New Testament took the place of the old law, which has been abolished. Period. So why are we doing this? Why are we? And to me, there are 2 kind of symbols of conquest that I see in the world today. One of them is the pride flag, which is also incidentally the flag of the Jewish Autonomous Oblast in Russia, the rainbow. And the other is the menorah. And it seems like a satanic ritual to get all of these people up over 8 days, these photo ops, and it's happening in Idaho too. I don't know if you've been paying attention, but it's pretty bad. I mean, it's one day they get all the Democrats in, the next day they get the Republicans in, then they get the Attorney General in, then they get the governor in, and it's just like, so you'll all bend the knee to the Antichrist.
Yes. Yeah. For
You've
personal
heard
financial
of
benefits.
Turkey's voting for Christmas. This is Christian Zionists voting for the advent of the Antichrist.
Yes.
Those 7 lamps were meant to never go out. That was the commandment through Moses to Aaron, that there has to be an eternal light. Now, it went out during the 70-year exile. It went out during the 2-3 year profanation under the Greeks. But since Jesus Christ has ascended to heaven, sent the Holy Ghost, those flames of fire, that light, those 7 gifts have never gone out in the world. So for a Christian to take part in all that is basically denying the meaning of the scriptures and the truth of the Holy Ghost and the acts of our Savior.
Yeah. And, it's so funny that these Christian Zionists are so vocal about their support for Israel and all of this stuff. They probably don't know about this. This happened, a little over a decade ago. But Israel's chief rabbinate tried to ban Christmas trees in Israel. And this is where that whole Xmas thing comes from. They don't even want to say the word Christmas. They don't want to say Christ. They spit on him. They spit on the crucifix when they walk by churches. They bomb churches, by the way. But people aren't aware of this. And then you've got these people like Jake Lang trying to cause all this division among Muslims and Christians. And it's like, can we take a timeout and take a look at Christmas in a Muslim country for a second here? This is Baghdad. This is Baghdad. This is a Muslim country. They've got Christmas trees up. They've got a Christmas fair. They've got no prohibition on Christians celebrating the holidays, but Jews.
There should be prohibition on this Mariah Carey song.
Yeah, I know. It was stuck in my head all last night. It's like really bad. But yeah, it's just incredible to me that they're trying to gin up this enmity between Christians and Muslims when it's so obvious that the Muslims aren't the problem here. They're not the ones trying to prohibit the preaching of the gospel. They're not the ones that are, forcing everyone to go to these Hanukkah events and to bend the knee.
May I ask, when is it that Polish member of parliament, Brown, took the fire extinguisher to the menorah? In what building did that occur?
That was Parliament.
That in a parliament or in a synagogue?
No, that was in
not
Parliament.
A synagogue.
No.
Right. So it'd be wrong to go in their synagogue and do that. That would be an unjust provocation and harassment. However, to do it in the parliament is the completely right thing to do. That's Poland, Christian nation, Christian parliament. You don't want the symbols of the Antichrist and denial of Jesus Christ in it. So,
for legal purposes in America, I must discourage anybody watching this podcast from taking fire extinguisher. Like, you will get thrown in jail for life if you try to do that. You'll get charged with like a bazillion hate crimes. Like, maybe hold a rosary, pray for an end of the Jewish occupation to our government. But just like be aware. Like even it strikes me as there was in Oklahoma a statue of Satan that was erected. And some Christian guy went in with like a sword, I think, and like literally chopped it down. And of course, they threw him in jail. But on the one hand, I've got very similar feelings towards it. But on the other hand, it's just like, don't go to jail. Like, please don't do that. Don't go to jail.
Yeah, we need warriors.
Yeah, we need people like outside building things, praying. I mean, granted, you could offer up the suffering, in jail. For the restoration of all things in Christ. But I have to put that as, because we'll get blamed, that it'll happen, that there's some guy from like Booz Allen Hamilton,
of course,
that will orchestrate a false flag just to blame us and then, get us thrown in jail. So, legally.
Could I try and pick up on a couple of threads from earlier?
Yes.
One is maybe when we have a disordered hatred, because confronted with the problems we see. What really makes me mad, it's not what white nationalists are saying. It's that white nationalists are shut down and not given a voice. I'm a priest, right? I'm interested in any soul from any country who believes in Christ, what is Catholic or wants to be Catholic. But injustice to anyone is in none of our interests. So as much as the Gazans are suffering a genocide, we should be giving no support to that through our countries. We can't fix it. But if we weren't supporting Israel, the Muslims would be able to fix it pretty quick and pretty short. And the Jews would have to learn real quick how to be respectful to other nations, or they've had it. But then when I hear Englishmen or Americans like yourselves worried about your country's identity, and then bishops and in the public square they'll say that you're being hateful, racist, you got to shut up and it's dangerous. That's why I have a lot of time for you and sympathy for you, because I want to hear what you're going to say. I've been brainwashed all my life, as most of us, that you can't talk about your nation and have pride in your nation and want to have control of your national direction, not share sovereignty with anyone. All this is good, but that conversation is being banned by sanctimonious bishops who say all the time they're listening to people, that they're accompanying people, but they don't. If you talk like this and say mass migration is a problem, they'll shut you down without listening to any of your arguments. So that, I think, is a much bigger problem than some errors in philosophy or some disordered emotions of nationalists.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. Now, to close the thread on Gaza, there are some new videos that are coming out of Gaza, which is, I think, kind of heartening, hopeful. It's very good. First up, we've got Cardinal Pizzaballa, the Patriarch of Jerusalem. who is doing a visit right now in Gaza. And it's, it seems like we're the only one that actually cares about these kids, right? They're being murdered. They're having their legs blown off. Their lives are being ruined. Their parents are being killed. I recall I tweeted this out the other day, that guy Joel Berry from the, Babylon Bee. He came out the day that they bombed the church in Gaza and called all of the people Hamas supporters. Basically,
all these children.
These kids, basically green-lighting their extermination. I mean, look at this. Who could possibly look at these scenes and say, yeah, they all need to go? And I'm, because it's the Christmas time, I'm reminded of this moment when Herod slaughtered thousands of kids. And it's, as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be. It's just incredible to me that the Christian Zionists still don't see the evil that they're perpetuating in the world. It's just incredible. And we also had, there was a speech, I'll play a little clip of this, of Cardinal Pizzaballa at the Holy Family Church in Gaza. This was yesterday. Let's see if we can hear what he says.
I remember the beautiful, especially the day, there were plans to transform near Antelope, Gaza into the resort. But we are here.
لكن ما زلنا هون.
We will not build resorts.
مش راح نعمر ريزورت.
We reveal our life as we want.
راح نبني حياتنا مثل ما احنا بدنا.
So he said there were plans to turn Gaza into a resort, and we're not going to let that happen. We're going to live our lives as we had. They also released a statement yesterday. The patriarchs and the heads of the churches had put out this statement saying, "We, the patriarchs and heads of the churches in Jerusalem, following the example of our Lord and his incarnation, continue to stand in solidarity with all of those who are suffering and downcast, and we call upon Christians and others of goodwill around the world to persevere in praying and advocating for a true, just peace in the homeland of our Lord's birth and indeed throughout the earth. For those facing these afflictions, we recall the epistle of the Hebrews, how many faithful over the centuries stood firm in their faith, even through extreme hardships, and how Christ himself serves as the wellspring for our devotion to God." But as you mentioned, there are still people getting killed. They're still getting shot. So this is still a big issue that we need to be praying for.
God bless the patriarch. He's showing the solution, and Hamas are not the bad guys. I mean, they cross the line sometimes. I'm not defending all their acts, but they're definitely not the bad guys. They've got a completely just cause, a just war there. But the patriarch is showing that the only resolution to it all is, in fact, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Before we close out, should we talk a little bit about his book?
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, we've got, Father, I don't know if you want to kind of do this, but you texted me last night that you came up with a joke. And so if we are $55 away from hitting the $200 mark. So if you want to, you had an idea for this, so I'll let you take it away.
Well, I'll say the first line of it, but then if we can just go back to something about World War II and how Jesus brings peace.
Yeah.
I guess a while ago it seemed completely inappropriate to have any jokes about the Holocaust. But when you discover the thing is fake, then that changes things. And when you find out it's been weaponized to destroy the world, to destroy our governments and our nations, and that so many good men like Gemma Rudolph and Carlo Mattagno have exposed the fakeness of the Holocaust. They've done all the careful research, forensic research, got the evidence, the documents. And these men have been hounded, like Jürgen Graf, exiled.
Imprisoned.
Gemma Rudolph put in prison. David Irving fined. So when they do that to people bringing forth reasonable arguments from history, then humor is what's left. To show we're not afraid of these tyrants with their lies. In any case, the beginning of it is a rabbi, a priest, and a Nazi walk into a gas chamber. Now, I'm going to have to say, if people want to find out what happens next, the super chats will have to bump up a little bit. That's for the backlash for Christmas.
So please send in your super chats at the backlash.net/superchat. We can get over this line with just a couple of super chats. So,
you know, normally if you make up a joke, you think of the punchline first. The punchline occurs to you and think, okay, how can I compose a joke to lead up to this punchline? So with this one, I did it the other way around. It's just the first line was so good, I think. I'm not ashamed to say it. It's such a good first line. It deserves a whole joke. So I gave time to working out the rest. A rabbi, a priest, and a Nazi walk into a gas chamber. And then we'll watch that. Meanwhile, remembering how Christ brings peace at Christmas, you know, in the Battle of the Bulge, December 1944, in this Hürtgen forest near Aachen, right, which is where Charlemagne had his royal chapel. This kind of Christendom is being born here. And then there's a woman in the forest who'd fled from Aachen with a 12-year-old son, Victor. They hear a knock on the door, and it's 3 American soldiers. One of them's wounded. And they're quite young, and they've lost their battalion. They've been hiding from the Germans for 3 days, trying to find the Americans. And it's Christmas Eve. She says, come in. This story, by the way, is on the American Battle Monuments Commission website. You can find it. So the Americans come in. She puts the wounded one to bed. The boy says his face was as white as the snow outside. And she starts cooking for them a Christmas meal. The Germans celebrate Christmas on Christmas Eve. And then after a little while, there's another knock on the door. The mother thinks it's more Americans. In fact, it's 4 Germans. And she says, well, you can come in, but we've got some people in here who aren't your friends. But there's no weapons allowed, no shooting on Christmas Eve. And the Germans are very young as well. They've lost their regiment. 2 of them are 16 years old from Cologne. The eldest one is 23, a corporal. And of course, there's a lot of tension at first, but they begin sharing what they have, and the tension melts away. Then the mother prays grace. Komm, Herr Jesus, sei unser Gast. It means, come, Lord Jesus, be our guest. And they're all pretty much crying by this stage. And have Americans and Germans who are supposed to be killing each other on Christmas Eve. A mother brings them together thinking all these men look like boys. They could be my son. And there's a role of Mary there in Christmas who brings us Christ through motherhood. This is the truth and the logic that ends war. There's no other way. It's the Feast of St. Thomas today. And he said, when Jesus was going to go and raise Lazarus from the dead, he said, come, let's go with him. Come, apostles, let's go with Jesus. Let's get killed with him. I love that in St. Thomas, that even if he didn't quite see that, it's too early for martyrdom, Jesus is not going to be killed now in his own time. He was ready just because he loved Jesus so much. He wants to be with him, even die with him then. And then St. Thomas at the Last Supper said, how can we know the way to heaven that Jesus is promising them? How can we know where you're going, Lord? And how can we know the way there? And Jesus said, you do know the way. I am the way, the truth, and the life. So we don't know the way out of the mess we're in, except we know Jesus is the way. We don't know how it's going to work out politically and geopolitically and in our own personal circumstances. But we know for sure with St. Thomas that Jesus is the way. And then there's Thomas's account with the wounds. Save that for Easter. So we have all the solutions we need. And this Christmas, not to let the craziness of the world distract us from that.
Yeah.
But as the super chats have gone up, I think I'll give the next line up.
Yeah, go ahead. We're at 220 now.
So that a rabbi, a priest, and a Nazi walk into a gas chamber, and the rabbi says, I can't do the accent, how can anyone believe in God in a place like this?
All right. Someone's going to need to cough up the money because I want to hear the next line. Somebody out there,
let him
please.
go. I've got to hear this.
Before we get to because we do have some questions for you. over on Entropy. We've got one super chat on Power Chat for you. Before we get to that, though, please, can you tell us a little bit about your new book, The Metaphysics of Love, Reality as the Way to Life? I've been unfortunate. I just got it on was it Wednesday last week? And I'm been super busy, so I haven't had a chance to really dig into this yet. But if you could give us a taste, a preview of what it's about, why it would be a good book to buy, and what people can get from it.
Well, metaphysics is a science of being as being. It's the most general and fundamental science to know reality. And if Aristotle did phenomenal work on this 2,300 years ago. He didn't get everything right, but he got the foundations. And then St. Thomas Aquinas, benefiting from the light of revelation, vastly improved what Aristotle had worked out. And since that, this is part of why civilization has grown, when we can be on the same page philosophically, even if not everyone is studying philosophy or studying metaphysics. At least academia, this used to be like part of your entrance into academia. So you wouldn't have the absolutely crazy, evil, deprived, insane ideas of transgender, for example, or even evolution. Or you could, in religion, interfaith and syncretism and religious indifference. It doesn't make sense. That can't be real. It's illogical. So this book is an attempt to reach, if not quite everyone, at least Catholics who are interested in truth, reality, and how the church used to be so clear and unified on this, and giving fairly concrete examples. I mean, lions, tulips, daffodils, things that we see around us to explain metaphysics, to explain the invisible, like the angels, which are very real, immaterial substances. And also there's a brief part in the middle there about evil, and it's because it's illogical. It's against oneness, truth, goodness, and beauty. So it makes itself very obvious, in fact. And metaphysics will have to be regained in the seminaries, in the church, in the universities, if the world is going to pull itself together by the help of grace and Christ.
Nice.
Where can people find your book?
That one's still surviving on Amazon, so Amazon's the best place to.
We do have a link. It's an affiliate link, actually, in the description below. So if you are interested in picking up a copy, you can do that in the description. Let's see here. We've got a couple of...
We are going to hear the end of this joke, right?
We better. I swear. I'll donate $200 to myself if that's what it takes. I don't care. The Orthodoxer sent $10. Merry Christmas, y'all. As my name says, I'm an Orthodox Christian. I wish I had a based priest like Father James. Father, have you heard of the movie Wake Up Dead Men? It's painful to watch because it's anti-Catholic.
I don't know it, but is he saying it is worth looking up or not?
I suppose not.
He says it's anti-Catholic and painful, so I guess I guess not.
No, I don't know it.
No, maybe spend your time watching Joyeux Noel instead. It's a little bit more uplifting, and especially with the season. Now, we usually have a $10 minimum on Super Chats, but we got like 3 $5 Super Chats in a row, so I'm going to read it. So this is from This and Mass Deportations, who sent $15 in total. What is Father Mawdsley's view on the birth rate of America's founding stock? How does the church understand this trend, and are there pastoral or cultural ways which the church actually does encourage family formation?
I don't know anything about the birth rate of America's founding stock, unless you're saying they're contracepting their children away. And contraception is a mortal sin. So, yeah, if you do that, God will not be mocked. Somebody told me yesterday that a lot of these troubles with contraception and abortion, which lead to homosexual partnerships and gay adoption, which is an absolute abomination, it began with becoming indifferent to mixed marriages of Catholics marrying Protestants. Because the Protestants were not so clear on contraception. They were losing the plot. And when Catholics and Protestants marry each other and you bring that conflict into a marriage, then of course divorce is going to go up. It was possible to marry a Protestant as long as understood the children will be raised Catholic, and the Catholic spouse can't be violating the natural law to please a Protestant spouse. So sorry, I don't know how to respond to that.
Well, the birth rate's obviously very low.
But is there any data out there about the birth rate of
just specifically white American?
heritage Americans?
I would imagine that it's around 1.8 with everybody else. I mean, it is interesting. There have been studies done that I'm aware of anyway on traditional Catholics, and our birth rate is somewhere around 5 to 6 children per married couple. And that's, of course, because we don't believe in divorce, we don't believe in abortion, we don't believe in contraception. And the church, I mean, not to put words in Father Mawdsley's mouth, I know this is a question for him, but like the church generally encourages people to have kids and to love them and to educate them and raise them in the faith. And a part of that faith is that you don't contracept your kids away. You don't sacrifice the next generation. The second question in this thread is, how does Father Mawdsley view the church's balance of its inspiring mission work abroad in non-white areas with rechristening increasingly secular Western countries?
That's a good question.
Especially when many donors assume that their support strengthens the faith at home too.
I'm trying to understand the last bit there when...
Well, so there is this increasing trend among not just Catholics, but all stripes of Protestant Christianity and whatnot, where they're doing these missions to Haiti and Ghana and going to Africa, and they're, preaching the gospel to the third world. But we've got white people and Americans, black, white, whatever, in the inner cities that aren't Christian. They're drug addicts. They're living under bridges. And it seems like we're giving all of this money to the church, and then the church is taking that money to engage in replacement migration. They're engaging in these foreign missions, and they're neglecting the people here in our own country. And I think that kind of gets more to the heart of his question.
God has a thing where it's very hard to convert your own family members. God wants you to follow his call to you, and it's going to be through a long, wide chain that you're unaware of, that what goes around comes around. So your acts of charity, even to strangers, will eventually come around and benefit your family members in the faith. And so, which is much better than you going directly to your family members and just getting into fights with them. No one's a prophet in his own home. So the church's missionary activity is part of her nature. It has to be that way. Again, St. Thomas the Apostle, today it's his feast, going out to the ends of the earth. He went to India, and thank God for all the missionaries of the past who've done that, because the church will only stand because she's universal and aspires to be universal. But those missionaries are, when it's a genuine vocation done through a religious order, it's going to be a small fraction of the clergy and religious with some lay support, done under the direction of the church. And it is part of her life, her nature. I think if we see Protestants talking about mission, that's bullshit. It's a money-making, brainwashing, antichrist. Forget it. If Catholics have a clear project where they're going to help needy Catholics in other countries, that's good, and it will come back around. But yeah, people say charity starts at home. It does. I don't know why. I just want to say about America, however you all work things out politically, there has to be a place for the blacks in America and the native population. But I think it's the more recent immigration of the last 40 years, same as Europe is suffering from, that is being exacerbated to destroy all our countries. Like, you talk about a loss of the community, Irish, German communities in America, whatever, of their particular identity. I don't think that's such a big deal. That's maybe just part of the development of America. But the fact that those identities are disappearing in Europe as well shows that there is an aggressive globalist push behind it. Because why should those identities be lost in Europe itself? Whereas I don't have solutions for America. You guys can work it out for yourselves. And I've heard you all say, and others as well, whoever you want to name, it's not like an innate hostility to blacks or Hispanics. It's when the differences are used and minorities are used and promoted, and the majority group is put down, its voice taken away, so that the Jews can come through. That's where all this emphasis on minorities has come from.
Right.
And that's why I think it's problematic.
Yeah, there's definitely something called the tyranny of the minority, right? And a wise man who I love very dearly says all the time that the minority gets its say, but the majority gets its way. And that is what we are not getting in this country. That's what we have not seen happen since the Hart-Celler Act, since the Civil Rights Act. It has been to the detriment of the majority of this country, to the benefit of an increasingly small minority with power, and it's just all over. It's crazy. To wrap up this in mass deportations, Christmas is supposed to be joyful, but in many rural communities, they struggle with addiction and isolation. From the standpoint of the institutional church, what do you think it can do to actually reach out and help heal and rebuild these communities?
I can't say anything else than it begins with the liturgy and ends with the liturgy, and everything else flows from and leads to that. So that it's not to say that you're locked only in liturgical concerns. Of course, there has to be the corporal works of mercy and spiritual works of mercy going out to these places. When the institutional church is against our deposit of faith and that commission from Christ to do this in memory of me, which is to keep tradition, when the institutional church is against that, trying to crush it like the bishop in Charlotte, then I think everything else is lost. And there's no hope of regaining it properly with vigor, with supernatural life, until at least all I think I can do is work for a return to that tradition, and then look to these things, acts of mercy on your individual level, and not hope for the church to do it, because the church will balls it up. She'll make it an interfaith thing or ecumenical thing instead of just making it an act of charity. So that's a bit bleak of a view. I mean, there's, like St. Paul says, there's never a law against charity. Never. There can't be. But we have to learn the faith ourselves, because the hierarchy aren't teaching it. Yeah. You can't expect Catholic schools now to teach the faith. The parents have to realize they have the first responsibility for that. So also for these acts of charity in Lent and Advent, make sure you give out a chunk of money to either religious or to people in need. That's what, force yourself to do it every Advent and Christmas, at least. Advent and Lent, sorry.
Yeah.
And then if you can go out and help, good.
Yeah.
Don't wait for the institutional church.
You know, just to interject my own kind of question here, you know, talking about the liturgy and how things flow from the liturgy, there's something I've been kind of pondering on recently, which is this idea of, because there's a lot of infighting among Catholics, as you know, and you've got a great take on it, by the way. You were on a podcast recently called Avoiding Babylon. Got to give a big shout out to those guys. By the way, Anthony says hello, and he wishes you all the best. He texted me this morning. But there's like a lot of infighting over the liturgy, and it's, in my opinion, I mean, obviously the traditional liturgy is perfect, and it expresses the Catholic faith in a much more perfect way than the Novus Ordo does. And maybe if we have time, I'll get into it a little bit. But the thought that I've been having is, when you look at things like the Albigensians, right? They had the Mass. They had the traditional Latin Mass, but they didn't have the faith. They were heretics. And conversely, I do think that it's possible for people in the Novus Ordo to have the faith without the traditional Latin Mass. And so I feel like there's like an error and an excess on both sides of this issue. What are your thoughts on that? Because the other thing that I've been kind of thinking about a lot with that concept is also the the saeculum obscurum, and I remember texting you about this, and a lot of people are completely unaware of this, but this was during the about 1000 AD, right before the East-West Schism. There was a family in Rome called the Theophylacti, and they were a very corrupt family that would get their pope installed, and then the pope would have like bastard children, and they would have the bastard child appointed to lead the Roman Curia. And then when the pope would die, the bastard child would become the next pope. And this persisted for like 60 or 70 years. And it was quite scandalous for the faith. But at the same time, the reason why I think of it is because to pretend that the church isn't in crisis today, I think is an error. It obviously is. Vocations are down. Divorces are up. People get, Archbishop Sample in Portland just did a sermon where he talked about how 70 to 85% of the people that are confirmed in his church apostatize, they leave. So the idea that we're not in a crisis, we are, but we can look to this other period of crisis, this saeculum obscurum, and see how even though we had anti-popes and bad popes, the indefectibility of the church remains. The promises of Christ that the gates of hell will not prevail remain. And I think that there's a lot of people that look at the crisis in the church today and they see no way out. They become these kind of dogmatic sedevacantists with no way to get the church back, with no hope that we'll ever have a pope again or something like that. And so just kind of curious on your, am I goofy? Have I been thinking too much, or is there maybe something there?
Perhaps that's like St. Thomas thinking, let's go die with him before it's time. You know, it looks all bleak to us. It looks like there's no way out, but God has that way. So with charity, certainly charity can be burning in the hearts of Novus Ordo Catholics more than some trads. The Holy Ghost blows where he will. We can't say. Trads say that the traditional liturgy is far, far better than the Novus Ordo. That's true. It's an objective fact, and it's not difficult to find out. Then some Novus Ordo Catholics get all bitter and think, oh, you think you're better than us. We're not saying that. We're saying that trad liturgy is better than the Novus Ordo. We're not saying that a trad Catholic is going to be better than a Novus Catholic automatically. No, God knows. God's the judge. And the Holy Ghost blows where he will. Who knows who has the most charity, which is what counts ultimately. But the church needs the traditional liturgy to have unity and to fulfill her mission. I've forgotten the pornocracy. That was maybe the first pornocracy in the Vatican. That's the Dark Ages, the 9th, 10th century. And we're in about the third one now. And looking back, what a godsend. As in, what can give us more hope that we'll come out of this dark period than the fact that the church has been through such terrible ones already, of a different nature, perhaps. In ways, this is the worst one. The church totally turning against, well, not totally turning against herself, but members of the hierarchy turning against the deposit of faith. But seeing us that in growing, this is another reason Jesus was born as a baby, to show us that he grew to his full stature through time. He was always divine, always God, always omniscient, but he manifests his fullness of grace by growing. So the church grows through history. And those earlier periods of history, which not all converts are aware of, just how messy it is in the church, how much she's been through. It again, like St. Thomas, not believing in Christ's resurrection until he put his fingers into the wounds. I think it's Pope St. Leo says it's Thomas's doubt which ends up giving us more certainty in the resurrection than the early faith of the apostles. It's that Thomas doubted and wanted to have that physical evidence that helps convince us too. So the fact that God kept his church alive and indefectible through some of the grimmest failures of the hierarchy and Catholics means we don't give up on ourselves, and we don't give up on the the Vatican today.
Yeah. We got a couple more of these questions on entropy. We're going to try to get through quick, I think.
Did I give the third line of the joke and then we're close to the punchline?
Yes, because we are at $350. It doesn't count entropy donations, so please go ahead.
All right, so I'll repeat it every time. A rabbi, a priest, and a Nazi walk into a gas chamber. The rabbi says, "How can anyone believe in God in a place like this?" And the priest says, "How can anyone not believe in God in a place like this?" And then we'll come to the punchline.
Come to the third one. We got to get to it. We got to get to it. Please, please, please. Somebody just send like $100 super chat right now. Do it. The spirit is moving. Anoint your billfold with oil. You'll be richer than... No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Look at this televangelizing.
Put your hand on the radio. Jesus is speaking to you. Sorry. Back from my old radio days, we used to do bits like that, and it was funny. Anyway, this in mass deportation said, Father Mawdsley, in a world of lights, gifts, and sugar highs, are there modern ways to celebrate Christmas that keep Christ at the center but are still genuinely fun for kids?
Great question today. Lots of great questions.
Yes.
Fun for kids. I mean, I was about to recommend matins. That I don't know if that'll be Christmas matins. I don't know if that'll be fun. They'd love it. Children would be enchanted by it. But there's not many places that do it now. It's like in the dark hours of the night. It could be before midnight mass or even after. Chanting the divine office, but there won't be that many places. If you get your children up in the night to go to midnight mass, they'd love that, right?
Yes.
I don't have any children, but it's not hard to work that one out.
Thank God. It'd be a problem if you did.
Yeah, you know what? I think parents will be much better at answering that question than I will.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm ashamed. I should know, shouldn't I?
I mean,
nothing springs to mind.
We're definitely, we're not doing the. I mean, we do St. Nicholas Day, right? That was a couple weeks ago, the Feast of St. Nicholas. The kids put their shoes out and they get some chocolates in their shoes. And then obviously we're doing gifts on Christmas morning. But my plan anyway for this year is we're going to go to church at like 10 o'clock at night. And we get together and we sing hymns, we sing Christmas carols. And then they usually have this beautiful candlelit midnight liturgy. And you hear all of you hear all of those beautiful Christmas songs, the good ones that weren't written by Jews. You hear them all in the liturgy, O come, Emmanuel, and, all of that kind of stuff. And it really comes to life. So that's what we're doing. We're doing that. And then I think we're probably going to wind up going. So I'm going to take my daughter to that one. And then the next day, I'm going to take the whole family again. We're going to go to a second mass, the morning mass, because there's 3 separate and distinct masses for Christmas. So that's what we're going to do. I don't know what you're going to do.
Similar. Okay,
good. Very good. And then
there's always decorating the tree as well on Christmas Eve. I'm sorry to say this, given what you have in the background.
I know. It's, and it's because of these other podcasters. Like I want to hold out because that's the tradition, is to put the tree goes up. Sometimes you can put the tree up like a week before Christmas with no decorations on it. And then Christmas Eve, it gets decorated and the gifts go underneath.
See, we've chosen ambiance above teaching. That's what we've done here.
I know, but it's because all of these other podcasters are doing it. And so the Trad Cat Broke, podcast, for me not to have a Christmas tree up, it's like, hello, Nick's got one up. Everyone's got it up. Everyone's got these Christmas trees
the
up.
Significance of it is if you treat Advent as penitential, because of the violet vestments, and then the feast breaks out and it goes on for not just the octave but the 12 days of Christmas, even 40 days up to the purification of Our Lady, to Candlemas. It's like showing the pain comes first and then the reward and celebration, which is supernaturally true, right? Heaven comes after this veil of tears. But what the world does, it wants this commercial fest now, celebration now. And then on Boxing Day, the decorations come down and it's a sale. And then it's the New Year's sales and Christmas is forgotten. Basically, you try and have all your fun now in this life and you're going to end up in hell, the New Year's sale, whatever. So why not just don't beat yourself up about this year, but maybe resolve, okay, next year we're going to try out doing the trad thing and see what happens.
We're gonna be Grinches next year. We're gonna be Grinches. By the way, the Grinch was a Jew.
Yes, indeed.
And we're gonna get into that a little bit. I think we're doing a Christmas Eve special, so we'll be talking a little bit about like It's a Wonderful Life and maybe the Grinch Who Stole Christmas a little bit. And then of course, Father Mawdsley, how do you personally celebrate Christmas as a priest? Is that consistent among clergy? Geez, these guys are just like nonstop. We got to get going. Is that consistent among clergy? How you celebrate, and what parts of that you would recommend lay people to incorporate in their celebration?
Well, most important for the priest on Christmas Day is that there are 3 masses, as mentioned before: midnight mass, the dawn mass, and then mass of the day, which could be mid or late morning. And I didn't catch the second part of the question.
It would be what parts of that you would recommend for lay people to incorporate into their celebration. So like, yeah, go to mass,
Go to mass.
go to church.
I wouldn't necessarily recommend the 3 masses for everyone, especially if you've got little children.
Yeah.
And like, you're not obliged to try and do what the clergy do. Like I hear lay people saying, oh, they pray the liturgy of the hours or even the divine office. Like exceptionally, if someone's called to that, for example, by being a Knight of Malta, good. But it's not there for most lay people. They have their duties of state. You might do prime or compline or vespers, but you can't do the whole thing. It's a burden for priests. It's a real burden.
Yeah.
But your spiritual life depends upon it. Why put that burden on people who aren't given the graces of state to do it? And especially if you launch into it, you'll probably give up after a few weeks and not want to go back. Whereas if you say you want to try and attend Tenebrae or Christmas Matins or attend Vespers when it's on, then it's pure joy.
Yeah.
You'll love it. Because not all our faith is a burden, right? A lot of it done in the right balance and measure, it's joy.
Yeah. And then let's see, Father Mawdsley, many are concerned about children being born outside marriage, reflecting strained relations between men and women. What practical guidance does the church offer young men navigating courtship today? Are we expected to shoulder most of the responsibility for doing the converting?
For doing the what, sorry?
The converting. Let's see.
Converting women?
Converting, yeah, I guess, converting these bimbos to Catholicism. I mean, I guess it's just an acknowledgement that there's a lot of kids being born outside of marriage, and there is a strained relationship between men and women in the world today. So yeah, what practical guidance does the church offer young men in courtship?
I'd struggle with questions of being a priest. Normally, you can prepare a sacramental a course for marriage preparation, whatever. Like, if a couple want to get married, they should come to a priest and learn the theology of what marriage is. And it starts from there. Everything else will flow from there. It's the union of Christ and his bride, right? Is the reality that marriage shows us, which is indissoluble. Christ will never give up on his bride, never divorce her, no matter how sick she becomes or weak. So I think that's the most important message for people getting married. And they want to hear advice about how to heal an argument, how to communicate.
Right.
Communication is very important. Are priests really going to be the people who can give advice about all this? When the priest should be explaining to people, when you get married, you're swearing before God and before society that you will remain with this person till death parts you, to show forth the indissoluble bond of Christ and his bride, the church. And you can think about that every single day, ponder that every single day to nourish your relationship. Like, don't, if you can spend time, a group of young men with a group of young women, and especially in groups, this is very good and healthy. Not just going out on dates, the two of you, trying to work, because if you're just trying to work out if you have a good time, maybe you do, maybe you don't. That's not the best indicator for a marriage, I'd say. But if you're in larger groups and you take your time a bit, not only is that awesome for chastity, because things aren't going to get out of hand probably while you're in a group. It just avoids rushing into anything. And if you are in dating, whatever you call it, or relationship, and you realize this isn't going to head toward marriage, then break up immediately. There's no point being in a relationship that you're sure is not going to lead to a marriage.
Right.
Yeah.
So you might start dating to find that the things seem promising, things are going well, but then when you realize they're not, get out of it.
Yep. One of the things as a married man, I think I could comment on this is when I was courting my wife, I had her go and hang out with my parents. And then I was able to have my parents, because your passions get involved, you like the person, you think they're cute or whatever. So it's good to have somebody who knows you well and loves you and wants the best for you to also vet the potential spouse.
Yes.
And that was something I did. Last question from this in Mass Deportations. Father, people call Christmas a kid's holiday. Is that actually true, or is that how we've come to experience it culturally? How should a couple who is unable to bear children celebrate? Oh my God, he keeps sending questions. Okay.
You're absolutely right, Dave, about listening to your parents on that, or your friends and family. I have a fairly disastrous history in this regard, which I don't need to get into now. But the people who know you and love you, they're not going to give you bad advice for the hell of it.
Right.
They have your best interests at heart. So if there is some unease from them, you've got to really pay attention to that. As for that question, I mean, there's the element of our Lord being born, a baby, that he can appeal not just to children, but to everyone. But to God is showing us that the value of every child, right? By the fact that the human nature can unite with divine nature in Christ, even as an infant, even as an embryo, even as a fertilized egg. This shows us the value of children, which revolutionized the world. When before children were treated in a lot of places with just as labor force, and with contempt and abused. But for a couple without children, so maybe biologically you don't have children, you can have children spiritually, who, whether you're a godmother or godfather, or you're confirmation sponsor, or you're just praying for particular children, or you have relatives with children and you're looking out for them in their, with cooperation of the parents, but trying to help the children grow in the knowledge of the faith. You can have like scores of spiritual children, in fact, that you're praying for, sacrificing for, if you work in a school or an orphanage, doing things for their faith, as you become part of their spiritual growth for them, many more than biological children you can have. So like, which we talk of mother superiors, right? Virgin religious, and yet they're called mothers. And a priest is called father. He has no biological children, because there's a spiritual aspect to paternity and maternity. That for a family who are visited with the cross, that they can't have children, the spouses. God's allowing you to have that heavy cross because he expects, and he will grant you the grace to have the strength to carry it and bring forth spiritual fruit.
Last question from this in Mass Deportation. Some argue that because Christmas uses things from nature, like trees, it's automatically pagan. But by that logic, sunlight, bread, and wine would be pagan too, which somehow invalidates Christ's birth. Where's the line between God's creation and pagan decor exactly?
That's a good question too.
These are really good questions.
It's a good point about the bread and wine. So that book, The Metaphysics of Love, a lot of it is speaking about nature and creation, which expresses truth. And God made it. It comes from God. Every effect has some proportion to its cause. It's not necessarily the equal to its cause. And of course, creation certainly is not the equal to God. but it does show something of him. And the best part of creation is persons. It's the angels and human beings. So these show the highest truths about God, about that he is spirit, he has intellect, he has will, which means he can know the truth and love the good, which God does absolutely and essentially, and we're called to share in that. So nature expresses truth, and it's upon nature that grace builds. So the pagans realize that there is deity that we need to honor and even offer sacrifices to it. They're working out natural truths. They just haven't yet encountered the true God. And a tree, right from the beginning, you have the tree of life and the tree of knowledge. And it's speaking of the cross of Christ, which is the most fruitful tree ever, the fruit of which is the Holy Eucharist, the body of Christ hanging on this tree. So all these lessons we get from nature, the flowers in the Garden of Eden, that you have this stem and then a seed falls and dies, there's a stem and there's a flower on the end. That is speaking about the crucifixion and the resurrection. And as in the seed that falls and dies, that's speaking of Jesus, in order to bring forth fruit. And then a long stem is this genealogy going from Adam, or if you want, say David, and then to Jesus. And at the end, Our Lady is the end of the stem, bringing forth the flower, which is Christ. So nature, when the pagans work out that you need to have rituals, that's true. And then the Christians show what the true rituals are. When the pagans work out there's something life-giving about trees, that's true. And Christians show what it is. It's the cross that is the life-giving tree. The pagans work out something about the sun and the moon. These are important. But all that comes together at Easter, on fixing the date of Easter. So, yeah, there are some people out there who think they've got a gotcha when they show how Christianity has, in some cases, taken over pagan rites. But that's because grace builds on nature, and what people have worked out obscurely, Jesus Christ brings into the light. It confirms the truth of God as creator.
Beautiful. We got a big $50 super chat from Tiger Shark.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas, y'all. How to mend, and I love your take on this, Father, so please, I'd love to hear it again. How to mend Christian infighting among different sects. Thank you, Father Mawdsley, for coming on the show again.
Look at your real enemy, then you will not fight your brother. But your real, total, absolute enemy is the devil and the demons. And I don't mean get obsessed with them. Mostly, I think, treat Satan with contempt. Don't talk about him. Don't obsess about him. He's a freak and an arse. But he is working through the synagogue of Satan, through the Jews. So if you see what the Jews are doing to the church, subverting the church, and how they're subverting the nations, how they're lying about the Holocaust, then you will not want to fight your brothers because you have some other difference with them. I mean, whether it's with other trads or other Catholics or other Christians or other human beings, if you're really engaging with the enemy, like you as well, if you imagine going to the front line where soldiers are fighting and you start criticizing soldiers because they got dirty boots or a bloody tunic, they're fighting. So when I hear people criticize, I won't get into names now, but a whole bunch of people they're criticizing and different kinds of Catholics attacking each other. What do you expect from people who are engaged in the fight? They're going to be dirty and bloody and tired. So don't give your brothers a hard time. And if you have the harshest words on the internet for if you're Catholic and you're attacking Catholics, and you're not willing to speak about the synagogue of Satan and the Jews and what they're doing, well, you know what? God forgive you. And I don't want to attack you either, because then I'm doing the same thing.
True.
We're getting scared if we do that. We're getting scared when we attack each other because you're not willing to take responsibility and have the fight. you're wanting someone else to do it. And so you start lashing out because nobody's going to win the fight for you. Well, Jesus has won the fight. So we only need to do our bit. Criticize the Vatican if you want. They have a massive responsibility, which they're not fulfilling. Criticize the Jews. And then I think that's how to heal your fights with your brothers.
All right. I think that's good. And again, your appearance on Avoiding Babylon, I might have to put the link in the show notes because those
guys really get it.
They really do.
And Anthony and Rob, they're brilliant.
We got to bring Anthony on the show. All right, Father, please indulge us. Let's have the last line of this joke, and then we'll let you go. You've been so gracious and patient with all of these questions and the super chats and giving us your time. So let's hear this joke.
I have to confess, the punchline's a little bit weak, right? So,
after all of that.
He let us fundraise on the basis, though.
The good thing about the joke is that it's got history, politics, and theology in it. Really meaningful. There's a lot more to it. And it takes a bit of time to sink in. I confess the punchline is weak. So if anyone can send a better punchline in the super chats, whatever, I'll be very grateful. So here we go.
We'll get Owen Benjamin to take a look at it.
A priest and a Nazi walk into a gas chamber. The rabbi says, "How can anyone believe in God in a place like this?" And the priest says, "How can anyone not believe in God in a place like this?" And the Nazi says, "Es ist doch bloß seine blöde draußen." Which I think I should translate. The Nazi says, "It's just a flipping shower."
No, that's good. That's so good.
So it might appear to be a letdown, but
oh my God.
The Jews have used that story to get people not to believe in God.
Yes.
And the Catholics have used the actual suffering of the war and the camps as a self-sacrifice, redemptive suffering. And then the Germans, let's finally let history speak the truth. They were not gas chambers. They were showers. They were trying to keep their camp inmates clean so they didn't die of disease.
So true. Yeah. And by the way, Father Mawdsley has done some absolutely incredible work on debunking the Holocaust narrative, the fake Holocaust narrative, over on his Rumble channel, which is still up. By the grace of God, thank you to the people at Rumble. It's called Scripture and Tradition. You can search it there, and he's got all of the documentation. Every video is extremely thorough, getting into the history, getting into the chemical analysis, all of the above. And it is so important that we are able to stand up for our faith. And when somebody comes up and says, "Oh, but what about X, Y, or Z?" that we're not browbeaten, that we don't back down, that we stick to our guns. And proclaim the kingship of Christ and his social reign. And please make sure, I think this is your only social media, but it is at Father J. Mawdsley on Substack. Please follow him there to keep up with him. And of course, please buy his book. So thank you again so much, Father Mawdsley.
It was such a pleasure to speak with you again. We learned so much.
Well, thanks for having me on. And I might not seem like the frail, insecure type, but I saw Donald Duck Tater just said the punchline was worth waiting for. So now I feel affirmed. I can enjoy the rest of Advent. Blessed Feast of St. Thomas to you all, and blessed Advent.
Thank you very much, Father. God bless. Oh, man, that was so great. It's so great to talk with a priest that's willing to listen and respond.
And has a sense of humor.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's so important. We do have a couple of other super chats that we've got to blow through here. Let's see. Where do we go? Sorry, Blonde. I know you want to get out of here.
Oh, no, it's okay.
I always feel under the gun with you. It's like, we got to go. We got to go. Mermaid Marie sent $50.
Hi, thank you so much.
I might see you on the slopes next winter. My second daughter is going to Eastern in Washington to become an occupational therapist.
Oh, cool.
I will be skiing at White Pass until then. Merry Christmas and God bless.
If you are at Schweitzer, you can find me at the bottom of the Bunny Hill flailing around.
Man, I haven't been snowboarding in since I was in high school.
Yeah.
Actually, so I should.
I was getting smoked by 2-year-olds. There was some Asian girl on a snowboard, and I was talking to her mom. I'm like, "How old is that kid?" She's like, "Oh, she's 2." She's like on the bunny hill. Like, I'm like, what is this?
Oh my, the Asian. I don't know what it is about. They're just disciplined.
Yeah.
You know, like I remember
Disciplined.
at Discipline. I remember at Berkeley College of Music, these people would just be like sitting at the piano or the drums. They're like machines.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I think we can all agree the Chinese are like machines.
we read that one. Aggie Jet Pilot sent $50.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And he says, Merry Christmas to y'all from Texas.
Thank you. We really appreciate it.
Orthodox Wang Half sent $20. Merry Christmas, Backlash. Merry Christmas to you. Anonymous sent $5. Got to read it. We're going to deal with it. The Amfest drama needs to be addressed. We really need to come to a consensus on what our standards are, what is acceptable, and how we're going to treat each other beyond the bare minimum vote political party shit.
Yeah, we'll talk about it on Wednesday.
Yeah, I mean, dude, listen. How do I do? Woman propaganda, please. You've been around for a couple of months. Okay, settle in, settle down. We don't need people going around slapping each other in the face.
Wait, what happened?
You didn't see this? This guy, Woman Propaganda, he was at the New York Young Republicans Club, and there was some Jewish guy dressed as a Nazi, and they were all yelling, and then I guess somebody mistook Woman Propaganda for a liberal and slapped him in the face.
Oh, I did see that. He said he would come on the show once.
So then, yeah, he did. And so then Woman Propaganda came back at Amfest and started slapping other people around to try to try to make himself look like more of an alpha. Just, I don't know. Let's see here. Heritage Americans are just Americans. If your parents weren't American, you are not. If you support foreigners, you're not. If you contribute nothing, you are not. Refuse to have American kids? No. America can't stay beautiful covered in filth.
Heritage Americans are we're double Americans. We're triple Americans. My family literally came over on the Mayflower.
If being an American is a spectrum, then Heritage Americans are more American.
They are. Yeah, absolutely.
North Idaho Tallow sent $25, some shekels. I want to hear the joke. Also, thank you so much for your patience. It's been the perfect storm of sick kids and an emergency wholesale order. I've been sending and restocking furiously. Soap has to cure equals delay. Haven't even made kids cookies yet.
Oh, you're doing a great job.
So that's it. That is all of these super chats.
Oh, I got a few
today.
on my end.
Oh, okay.
This is from Scott. Thanks again. Here's some more for Dave's charisma. Thank you. And Dies Irae, am I saying that correctly?
Dies Irae, yeah.
The traditional Latin Mass and the Novus Ordo Mass teach two different religions. The new Mass was not promulgated by the Catholic Church, but is an invention of modernists. That's a hot take, but I'm sure Father Mawdsley would agree. I don't want to put words in his mouth. I think that is it, yes.
All right. Well, we'll be back on Wednesday.
Don't we have some ads to do?
Oh, we do.
Let's do some ads.
Oy vey.
Another noticer said, well done, Dave, on your millennial appearance. What an interesting backstory. Merry Christmas to the Backlash team and your families. I'm going to listen to that today.
Oh, boy. It'll be very good. Yeah, I mean, I just figured I'd try to give people more of my background because there's a lot of people that are watching the show and it's like, they don't know who I am, where I came from. Right. So trying to give people a little bit of the backstory as to why I'm doing this, because it's like, I didn't just wake up one day and start a podcast. Right. This has been a journey. So.
Oh, by the way, so every year, but this is our first year, so I shouldn't even be saying this. We are evaluating ways that we can grow the show. And so I have been thinking about doing some sort of live event or in-person meetup in the St. Louis region, which is my hometown. And then I can write the trip off on my taxes. Nice. Visit some people from high school, hang out, and hopefully get some other commentators on board. I have threatened black-pilled Mr. Devin Stack to face docs.
Oh, he could wear one of those ski masks.
Okay, come on. At this point, he's been around for so long. He lives in the desert. He can face docs. It's fine. Yeah, everything's fine. Do some kind of ticketed event. Maybe I can force Leonardo Joni to show up. I texted her about it, and she goes, St. Louis is a shithole. And that was true. She's not wrong. But anyway, if I have any people that are interested in something like this, can you DM me on Twitter? That is at blondes_tweets. I'm trying to gauge interest for an event like this. How many of you people would come out to the St. Louis region? If we could get like 100 people out there, then we on the Backlash will do it.
Absolutely. And I'm also, send an email to info@thebacklash.net if you can't DM her for whatever reason. And I don't want to get too ahead of my skis on this one. But there are some discussions happening in the background about having a real event here in North Idaho with some serious big names. to start discussing this national conversation that we're all having about America first, Israel, what is an American, what about deportation? So be on the lookout over the next couple of months. We will be announcing that. But in the meantime, we do have some sponsors we have to talk about and some amazing things that are happening right now in the gold and silver markets. Silver has, look at this chart. It's unbelievable.
That is sus.
I mean, thank God. If you guys had been listening to us since we started with our sponsorship, which would have been around June 2024, you would be up 126% if you were investing in silver.
This is a reflection of a weak economy.
Very similar if you started buying gold when we were telling you to do so. Gold is now up 84%. And so the reason we're bringing this up is because our partner, Atlas Bullion, is the best place on the internet to buy gold and silver because they have the best prices, but also because when you make purchases from them, it does help subsidize this program. It helps us bring you the content that you know and love. So please stack precious metals the easy way with Atlas Bullion. They've got plans starting as low as $55 a month for silver and $200 a month for gold. They've also got plans for your kids, like the Little Legends, or legacy builders for people that want to start sacking some of their money away in something that can't be debased or printed into oblivion. I just saw something last night about how in order to make all of our debt payments because of the treasuries, we're going to have to print $20 trillion over the next 3 years. What do you think that's going to do to gold prices?
Oh, yeah.
What do you think it's going to do to silver prices?
That is just an insurmountable amount. That's such a crazy amount. We might as well say like a bajillion.
Yeah, basically doubling the balance sheet of the Fed. So please protect your wealth, protect your family's future by investing in gold and silver. Also, got to give a big shout out to North Idaho Tallow Company. If you want skincare products without endocrine disruptors, they've got soap, balm, and lip balm. And candles without soy in it that won't make you gay. So please.
Nothing from Idaho Tallow will make you gay.
Please visit idahotallow.com. And also, they have a new special up. Me Mum. They've got Me Mum soap. Grass-fed tallow soap. No fragrance, no nonsense, just tallow the way Me Mum would have made it. So please visit Idaho Tallow. Follow them on Twitter at Idaho Tallow. They've got amazing products. We would be promoting them even if we weren't getting paid to do so. But we are. We are getting paid to do that. Also got to give a big shout out to Above Time Coffee Roasters. I think we already did that a little bit, but don't forget we're going to be giving away a bag of coffee with our Christmas giveaway. So you can get signed up to win. If you go to our Twitter, it's the top link, or if you're just going on your browser, it is thebacklash.net/giveaway. And we also, last but not least, we've got to give a big shout out to Antelope Hill Publishing.
Oh, look at their little the little Christmas tree.
Oh yeah,
he's
got the Christmas hat on the deer, or is that an elk? Antelope Hill Publishing is fighting to keep history alive and equip new generations of dissidents with the information to fight the anti-white regime. Their varied catalog includes newly updated and expanded third edition of Dr. Kevin MacDonald's Culture of Critique, the essential modern text on Jewish identity, Dr. Ricardo Duchesne's magnum opus, Greatness in Ruin, and the definitive scholarly examination of European exceptionalism. Guys, can we get a new script? We should get a new, maybe January, as well as works by Kerry Bolton, Paul Kersey, and Josh Neal. Antelope Hill recently brought David Irving's iconic Nuremberg, The Last Battle into print, and they have numerous translations of historical works from eras such as Fascist Italy, National Socialist Germany, and Civil War Spain, previously unavailable in English. There are also plenty of books on contemporary issues such as transgenderism, the opioid crisis, and Christian nationalism, as well as history books, novels, and children's books. So whatever your interest is, you're bound to find books you like at Antelope Hill, all professionally published with sleek, modern cover art. Help us and help our people by checking out the companies that share our values and fight for our cause. Visit Antelope Hill Publishing today. And by the way, my Christmas did come early. I've got to give a little plug to my own Twitter account or whatever. I got a couple of books on the White Wednesday sale. I got David Irving's Nuremberg, The Last Battle, Jose Antonio, Fascist, and Rise of the Reich. And I was talking with the people from Antelope, and I think I'll be joining them on one of their podcasts to discuss some of this stuff. It is interesting. I started reading the Rise of the Reich, and I'm instantly, I have a new understanding of like the dynamics in Germany, because I didn't really realize how anti-Catholic the SS was. They really were. They have this like goofy history that like the German people always existed from eternity and they always will. But actually, no. Like if you believe in Adam, if you're a Catholic, if you're a Christian, you believe in Adam and Eve, and you believe that they were our first parents. And so there is a way of understanding paganism coming from the sons of Adam who had some level of divine revelation. They understood how the stars worked. They understood how to manipulate things. They were building, musical instruments in these big cities, and you can see it in all these megalithic ancient ruins where they clearly had some understanding of the natural world revealed to them by God, but not in its fullness. And that fullness was revealed with Jesus Christ. We've also got to give a big shout out to ODGG Supply. They are the world's best military outfitters. ODGG Supply is our preferred source for legit domestic and foreign military surplus. It's gear that's been proven in conflicts across the globe, and it's ready for your next adventure. The guys at ODGG Supply put the gear through its paces so you can count on quality the next time you are in the field. Using gear from all over Europe and the Cold War to modern U.S. military, from the global war on terror, from blankets to rucksacks, tools to clothes, ODGG Supply, more than any other military surplus store, focuses on the functional gear that you need to thrive in the field. Follow ODGG Supply on YouTube and on X at PNW Gorilla and on Instagram at ODGG_supply for the latest updates on sales and new-ish inventory. And if you use promo code BACKLASH25 for free shipping on all U.S. orders, that's ODGGsupply.com. And I think that we are now contractually fulfilled on all of our obligations.
Thank you so much for joining us and your generosity during this Christmas season. We love you guys so much. We will be back on Wednesday. Wednesday is going to be our Christmas stream.
That's our super special Christmas Eve stream. I don't know what we're going to be doing. Maybe we've got some gingerbread houses we could make.
We're going to talk Amren. Cameron's not going to be there.
We're going to talk Amfest.
Oh, yeah. What did I say?
Amren.
No.
Totally different. Amfest, we'll be talking about some of the stuff going on there, the speeches, the Ben Shapiro stuff. Tucker Carlson made Anti-Semite of the Year. Can you believe it?
Come on.
That's such a cop-out. Nick deserves that award. It's stolen valor.
It is.
Yeah, for real. And then also, I want to talk about, like, The Grinch Who Stole Christmas.
Cool. I'm in.
Yeah,
it's going to be a cozy little stream, so join us on your Christmas Eve on
We'll try
Wednesday.
to keep it toned down, too. So if you want to introduce your family to the show,
okay,
maybe that'll be it. Maybe
all the
that'll be
hard-hitting Holocaust denial was today.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll keep it pretty clean up on Wednesday. Thank you so much, and we will see you guys on Wednesday. Bye-bye.
Bye.